So I think then the question is, do we just drop it off and leave it, or what do we do? So those kinds of questions are all there. So Dr. Madan Singh says very difficult to implement. So I think we should leave it, saying it is difficult, or it is so vast, so we will have to leave it. How do we accommodate it? We will have to leave it, or do we have to do something else? I think we are already, started asking these questions. I would request Dr. Shikha to actually save all these chats, because there is a lot of discussion and share it to everyone, because it's a very
sir, I'll do that.
Yes, because there are interesting ideas coming. I mean,
Yes,
my talking is just one part of it. I think you people bring value to this whole session. I am not bringing value to this session. So I think all these questions are in front of us in terms of what do we do and how do we sort of go about and so on. So before we address this issue, let me take you through some more snippets of Indian knowledge system. I've just showed you a video in which we got a sense of watershed management. Indians were known to be very good in watershed management some 3,000, 4,000 years back. Actually, not even a few hundred years back. So like that, there are areas. So let me first give you a snapshot of some of the nice things about Indian knowledge system before we formally define it and then take it forward with some more examples and so on. So you are all sitting in Delhi. So this pillar is not too far from your place. This is a very famous, pillar. The iron pillar at Qutub Minar, as we all know, which is about 6,000 kgs. But there are actually several pillars. This is only prominent. This has caught the attention of people because, for whatever reasons, there is a pillar at Dhar in Madhya Pradesh, which is even heavier than this, nearly twice as big as the Delhi pillar. There is one on Mount Abu. If you come to Bangalore, I will take you to a very famous temple called Kollur. Kollur is a very famous Mukambika. Kollur Mukambika is a very famous, one of the 68 Shakti Pita actually. There you have iron pillars. And the interesting part of that iron pillar is it is just 35 kilometers from Arabian Sea. At least Delhi is nowhere near the sea. It is some 1,000, 2,500, 1,500 kilometers inside the sea. Whereas this Kollur pillar is just 35 kilometers from Arabian Sea. That is also not rusted. It's all in the open. Nobody has put it on a plastic cover and then keep it in a storeroom or a strong room in a bank. It is open, just as this Delhi pillar. This Kollur Mukambika pillar is also on the open, not rusted at all. There are so many iron beams, 29 iron beams in Konark Temple in Orissa, gigantic iron beams at Konark, Bhubaneswar, Puri temples, all are on the seashore. They are not rusted. So I don't know, what do you infer from this? There is a beautiful culture apparently in this country which mastered the art of manufacturing, if I have to use today's term, corrosion-resistant steel. Looks like we knew about it some 2,500 years. Some of them are 1,800 years old. That Delhi pillar is 3rd century BC, 3rd century AD, I think, CE, and so on. So therefore, this speaks of something about this particular culture and this particular country. So that is what you may have to infer from this. Just now you saw a video on watershed management. What you see here is a photo on the left side. This is the 4th oldest dam in the world in terms of antiquity. 4th oldest dam in the world, but the only dam surviving in the world today of that antiquity, 2,300 years back. This is in a place called, in Tamil Nadu, it is in a place called Tiruchirappalli. This is called Grand Anaikat. Okay. It was one Chola king in the 1st century CE built this dam across river Kaveri. Even today, it is a working dam. This is the only dam which is working after 2,200 years. 200 years back, Britishers, just raised the height of the dam by another 2 feet or something they did. by and large, nothing else was done to this dam. So this is called the Sangam period in Tamil Nadu, South India. It's called Sangam period. Rainwater harvesting structure. It is just an example. There are many methodologies, mechanisms available. There are inscriptions which are talking about it, which people are unearthing in the last 50 years about rainwater harvesting structure. The Grand Anaikat, in Tamil it is called Kallanai Dam, world's oldest still in use dam, and also credited with being the fourth oldest dam in the world. Built by the Chola king, 1804, Britishers raised the height of the dam by 27 inches and so on. So again, here is a culture which some 2,200 years, 2,500 years back understood how to do what is called irrigation. I mean, I'm using modern words. These are all the words we use to teach today. We say watershed management and we say irrigation. All these were well established, not in a very preliminary method or in a very rudimentary, primitive way and all that. These are all well established. That is what this example is actually informing us. Look at this. I do not know how many of you can recognize this. This temple celebrated its 1,000th year 10 years back. We had a huge festival around it. This is a living temple. This is not a monument which is kept under lock and key. Every day puja happens here. Every day people visit, thousands of people visit. There was a recent movie called PS1, Ponniyin Selvan 1. The Ponniyin Selvan built this temple in 1010 CE. 1010 CE, he built this temple. Rajaraja Chola built this temple, 1,000 years back. And such a beautiful temple. I'll show you a very short 2-minute video on what is some of the challenges of building this temple that at that time people would have actually encountered. Just watch this. So, if you want to understand anything about India's great legacy of technology, all that you need to do is to visit some temple. You may be wondering, why am I saying this? The reason is very simple. The hardest known material to mankind even today is granite. All South Indian temples after 800 CE, the Pallava king, Mahendra Pallava, started this legacy of building temples with granite. That's why after 1,000 years, they are intact. Not a scratch can happen on them. Okay. So to chisel these rocks, granite rocks, today's metallurgy engineers will tell you what kind of a steel is required. Because if you have to work on the hardest known material, the tool that you use must be harder than that, which is probably difficult, or smarter than that. One of the two. It has to be either harder or smarter. What I mean by smarter is sharpness of the tool, the specific properties of the tool, alloy steels, high speed alloy, all these words we use today as metal engineers and so on. They must have discovered all of them. Otherwise, you cannot build temples like this. And I'm not talking one or two temples. I can count 1,000 temples, not one or two. If it is just one temple in the entire breadth and length and breadth of India, then we can say by hook or crook, with Herculean effort, they did it and so on. If you have to put 500 temples like this over a 200-year period, you have to find technology to do it. Every time you cannot stretch your limits like this, people would just collapse. So therefore, these monuments, if you look at, they will tell you that maybe there was something very interesting in this country. Nobody can actually deny that. Nobody can actually dispute that. People can ask what it is, how to get it, and what they use. All that questions only you can ask. You cannot say there was no technology here. It's all Maya Jal. We can't say that. That's simply not going to work. Let me go to the next. This is another temple. I just wanted to show you one more temple. I'm sure some of you would have seen this temple. This is a very famous temple in Orissa, which is the Konark temple, built in the 13th century. Again, black granite. Took 12 years to complete. But there are, people who go and visit the temple, if they spend a little time, they will understand that if you don't have a knowledge of astronomy, you could have never built this temple. Because each wheel that you see here, there are actually 24 wheels around the temple. The wheel is a sundial actually. If it is, as long as it is in the east-west plane, it is actually a sundial. Not only that, the temple was built in such a way that the first sunlight, when sunrise happens, when the first light ray of the sun will fall on the idol which was kept inside the temple. Today they have stolen it, they have damaged it, all those are different stories. It is not a living temple. It is a booth bangla now. There is nobody using it. But every day the rising sun's first rays will fall on the main deity. Now, if that has to happen, you should understand the complete movement of the stellar bodies, luminaries on the sky. And you have to provide for sun will have Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. It will move this side for 6 months. It will move the other side for 6 months. So you have to provide mechanisms for in such a way that notwithstanding where the sun is moving, the first ray falls on the idol. Without astronomy, you can't do anything. And Indian astronomical prowess is spectacular. We don't teach it to anyone. None of us know it because we have not been taught. We have also grown in a situation where we don't know it. It's only hearsay for us. People generally say, you get a lot of WhatsApp. I'm tired of this WhatsApp. There's WhatsApp messages. India is great. India has this. I tell my friends, please don't send this WhatsApp. You study. I don't want to hear from you that, Sanskrit is a great language. India has all those. I'm not interested. Because we are busy only WhatsApping some message about which we don't even know. That's the situation actually. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, this is, I will just recite this. It's a way to recite it, so let me recite it. Okay, and then let me tell you what it is. Na sada no sada asit tadanim nasit rajono vyoma paroyat किमावरीव कुहकस्य शर्मन्नं किमा आसीत् गहनं गभीरं न मृत्युरासीदमृतं न तर्हि न रात्र्या अन्ह आसीत् प्रकेतः आनीदवातं स्वदया तदेकं तस्मान्न परकिंचनास. Actually, I recite it in some of my classes and my programs, and I ask people, what do you infer from here? So let me ask you, if you use one word to describe what is this, or what comes to your mind, what would be that one word? If I have to really ask you, after hearing this, what came to your mind? Suppose if I ask, just on hearing my recitation, what came to your mind? Can somebody chat me so that I get a sense of what it is? Peace, okay. Inspire life. In fact, a lot of people, I keep telling people that if I recited it, which I did now, of course, a number of us will say, okay, some Purohit has come for is telling some mantras because there is some puja. So possibly, there is a way it is being recited. Because this is from Veda. This is from Rig Veda. This is from the 10th mandala of Rig Veda. 10th mandala has some beautiful suktas actually. This sukta is called Nasadiya Suktam. I have titled it here from the Rig Veda Samhita. It is called Nasadiya Sukta. And to just go and Google just Google Nasadiya Sukta, what you will find is a lot of foreigners are reading it. Why? There are 7 mantras. There are first 2 mantras I have put here. Okay. The Sukta starts by saying Na Asat Asit. Na Sat Asit. This is about the origin of the universe. What you call it as cosmology. In today we use the word cosmology to talk about origin of universe. This particular sukta, 8 mantras, are speculating how did this universe, what was the origin of the universe? That is was being written here. A lot of Western scholars are reading it. They are saying this is very interesting. Because today the Western scientists are actually using multi-million dollar. They are actually putting a phenomenal amount of money searching for God. Searching for origin of the universe, Big Bang theory, this, that, black hole, all kinds of things they are doing. And they are just not, it is just, evading them. They are not able to get an answer to the question that they have. This sukta has 7 mantras in which there is a lot of speculation as to how the origin of universe happened. That's what this mantra is. But if you recited this mantra the way I recited, anybody recites it, we all will think there is some religious thing going on here. There is some, some age-old, some mantra is being recited. Maybe some religious offering is happening. Lot of Vedas has this kind of material. I don't know how many of us are actually aware of it. There's a lot of interesting material available in Vedas, which speculates on many things about this world. That's what this repository of Samhita is all about. That's what, as an example, I wanted to show here. So, if you put all of them together, whatever we have seen so far, for an uninformed, uninitiated kind of a mind, I've been asking this question for quite some time. For the last several years, I have been asking people, when I say asking people, my colleagues, consultants, doctors, well-read people, not so well-read people, you can take whichever way you want. a cross section of people I have asked, please tell me what is this ancient Indian wisdom? And I'm going to now tell you what are some of the responses I have got. Okay, because that in a way says what is our current understanding of IKS. So let us start with what is it? Ancient Indian wisdom, if I ask what is it, okay. The top of the list that I have heard is mythology. Nothing other than God. Religion. Okay. Now, this word mythology, I take very serious objection to it. I mean, these are, we have learnt English, Britishers have taught us. See, this is a very interesting word. There are two parts there, myth and ology. Ology is science. Myth is non-existent. So, many of the Indians, most of us, we call our Puranas mythology. For Indians, Puranas are not myth. They are reality. Rama is not myth. Krishna is not myth. Okay, but we use the word mythology because that's how they coined the word. So they say it is a science of nothingness, science of non-existing imaginary things. That is what many people knowingly, unknowingly say when I ask them what is ancient Indian wisdom. They say, oh, it's all religious prescriptions, a long list of do's and don'ts, vidhi and nisheda. All kinds of things are there. That is what I think Indian knowledge is all about. Indian wisdom is all about. Well, they're all matters of blind faith. That's so these are the top of the list answers that I have got when I have asked people, what is ancient Indian wisdom? Now, if I ask them, where is it? Okay, what is it? Let it remain. Where is it? Can you tell me where is it? I have asked this question also to a lot of people. And I have got a set of answers. And what are those answers? Well, they say, well, it's all extinct. It's an endangered species. It is not to be found. Okay. Or, incomprehensible, uninteresting, well, too difficult. I mean, they're all there, but, we don't know what it is. So therefore, it's as good as not being there and so on. I mean, I'm giving only the top three responses by frequency, if you may say. If you ask me, have you counted and kept it somewhere? No. It is out of my repeated talking. This has registered very strongly in my mind as I heard it quite often. That's why I put these things here. Now, if I ask, why do you need it? So, where is it is over. Okay. What is it is over. Suppose if I ask, why do we need it? I have asked this question to people also. Well, do you need ancient Indian wisdom? Why do you need it? Then I have got a set of answers. Say, oh, it's all fine for chanting mantras, for all kinds of rituals. Indian knowledge system is very useful. And nowadays they use the word saffron agenda. I mean, there's a nice way to say, oh, it communalizes the society, etc., etc. There's another thing that people say. Some people say, no, this is all to say we had everything. Just, shook our collar and say, no, you say anything, we have it. That's the only purpose. That's a WhatsApp. That's a WhatsApp business. You have to keep only doing WhatsApp. Indian knowledge is used only for saying that we had this, we had that, without knowing what we had. So this is another kind of a thing. Then some people have asked me counter question. They asked me, will it provide 2 meals a day for the poor? I mean, Indian knowledge system and all that you are saying, will it really provide 2 meals a day for the poor? Then I thumb the desk and say, no. They get a little surprised when I say this answer. So let me explain it in a little more detail. Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, okay, puts $1,000 million, $600 million satellite on the orbit. Correct? They make a huge satellite and then finally they take it to Sriharikota or somewhere. They put it on the launch pad and then they put it on the orbit. Now I tell them that the $600 million satellite will not provide 2 meals a day for the poor. It will not. Then I add a word at the end of it. I say directly. It may feed 2 meals a day for the poor indirectly. So let me explain what it is. Suppose there is a satellite which we launched about 15 years back. It's called INSAT. The Indian satellite, INSAT 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, we have launched all of them. These satellites are for weather. Today, our ability to predict weather is much better than what it was 25 years back, thanks to these satellites. So what happens when you put a satellite and you get to know when it will rain, how much will rain, and all that fairly accurately, then that will help us in our cropping pattern. That will help us in taking precautions. That will help us increase agricultural productivity. All those can happen. And through that, 2 meals a day may be a possibility. That's why I'm saying that an ISRO satellite will not provide 2 meals a day directly. It can give 2 meals a day indirectly. Indian knowledge system is exactly like that. It will not provide 2 meals a day directly. But if we dip into it, if we understand what it is, and then we, it is so well taught and everybody understands it well, who knows, we may find better paradigms of solving today's problems. That way, society can become any better. Our possibility of providing 2 meals a day for the poor will be a reality. I tell you, it will be 100% a reality. Because in this country, there is something called Pancha Maha Yajnas. If you don't do Pancha Maha Yajna, you are actually condemned. And if you do Pancha Maha Yajnas every day, if every Indian does Pancha Maha Yajnas every day, 2 meals a day for the poor is guaranteed. So, indirectly it will guarantee 2 meals a day if you read Indian knowledge system. As a small example, I'm saying there are other ways. I'm just saying that. So therefore, we have these kinds of problems with which we are stepping into this whole Indian knowledge system business, actually. I want you to understand this. So, let me tell you what is happening now. So the question is, what do we do with Indian knowledge system? This will be a question that we need to answer. If you go and teach tomorrow, our students, I'm doing all these because we have to, these are the first 2 sessions we should teach. Otherwise, students are not there. Because we are swimming against a stream, we are swimming upstream. I think we should make eminent sense. Otherwise, what are we teaching? It is not just taking some lessons and people will say, hell with you, what are you talking about? Because already we are having all kinds of problems, thinking it is all religious prescriptions, a lot of useless things and so on. So today, the question that we have is, what do we do with the Indian knowledge system? Then I find what is happening and I'll tell you what we can do. First of all, let me tell you what is happening. Now, I find 4 things happening today. The easiest thing that is happening is just abandon them. You can say it is too difficult, it is too complex, nobody can understand. You can write a list of 100 reasons why we don't need it and just throw it into the gutter. That we can do. This is one way people use it. Just abandon them. The second way to use it is keep it in a puja room and everyday worship. Don't even open Bhagavad Gita ever once in your life. Don't open Ramayana ever in your life. Keep it in your puja room and put some flowers. Arati karke roj aisa karna hai, bas. Every day you just do Arati, Irati and all that. Don't open. Whereas I opened Bhagavad Gita and offered a 3 credit elective. At IIM Bangalore, 160 students take it every year. I'm not able to, in fact, more are interested, I put a stop because I cannot teach beyond 160. It's impossible for me. I put them in 2 classes of 80 and 2 times I teach. I opened Bhagavad Gita 20 years back and then pulled a lot of management material out of it. But a lot of us think these are all to be kept only in a puja room. Just keep it there. In fact, in IIM Bangalore, anything that I teach will have Upanishads, will have Gita, will have Ramayana, you name anything. But I don't think I'm talking nonsense here because my students are extremely finding happy about what I'm doing. I don't preach religion either. I don't have to in a classroom. Religion is there are Sant Mahajanas who can do it better than me and so on. So the second use is keep it in a puja room and worship. This is another method. Then there is a third method to use Indian knowledge system. And that is to take positions without knowing what it contains. You have to just go to the rooftop and say Bhagavad Gita is all religious. We are all injecting religion into classroom teaching and all that. So people tell me, I once called one person. He said, sir, what is this? Bhagavad Gita is all teaching religion. I asked him, have you read Bhagavad Gita? He said, no. Then he said, I'm not going to talk to you. I don't talk to people who are not equal to me when it comes to professional things. You do research and come here, let us talk. You first read. You first read, you first find out what it is, and make your judgment, and then come. Let's talk about it. See, the problem is, I don't teach anesthesia because I don't know anesthesia. I don't teach psychology because I don't know psychology. I don't teach polymer physics because I have not polymer chemistry. I haven't read. I teach management because I have read management. But the problem is there is one license Indians have. You can talk anything about Indian knowledge system without knowing it. Simply you're saying I am practicing it, therefore I know. Or I know what it is. So this is that category. You have to take positions without knowing what it contains and say all these are useless, this has nothing, and those kinds of, this is another method. Or there is a fourth method. This is a fancy I see in the last 10 years. Much more. The fourth method is you have to say everything that you talk about is available in Indian knowledge system. You name anything, it's available. For aeroplanes, available. You name anything, it is available in Indian knowledge system. For example, there is one shloka in Gita. Let me just tell you, otherwise you don't understand this point that I'm making. There is one shloka in Gita, in chapter 7, there is a 7th shloka. Chapter 7, shloka 7. This shloka says, Matta parataram na anyat kinchidasti dhananjaya, mayi sarvamitam protam sutre manigana eva. There is a word sutre. Sutra is a thread. And manigana is a, cluster of beads. Round, square, triangle, blue, green. So Krishna says there is nothing other than a speck of dust in this world other than me. It's as though there is a long string in which all kinds of different colors and shapes of beads are put together. Sutre Manigana Eva. So I find people in conferences and even in other places, they go and say, well, string theory is a complex mathematics today. There's something called string theory, which talks about, some of the origin of the universe and, those kinds of, it's a high-end physics concept called string theory. So people say, oh, string theory is there in Bhagavad Gita. How do you know? There is a word string. Since there is a word string, you connect everything to Bhagavad Gita and say, oh, string theory. We have already told it in Bhagavad Gita. Sutre Manigana Iva. Like these people keep talking. This is the greatest disservice we can do to Indian knowledge system. I think this is, in fact, the other three categories also I will accept, but not this fourth category. We don't have to glorify the past. We don't have to say, this culture had everything. Every culture had everything. I think everybody was intelligent in their own sense. They had their own ways of doing things and so on. We don't have to do this chest beating all that we don't have to do. In my personal opinion, all those are not required, but some people. So these are the four uses that I find predominantly for Indian knowledge system. Whereas what I want to propose are two more. One should get to know firsthand. The emphasis is firsthand. Every one of us can take a scripture, read it properly, go to somebody, learn it, read it properly, get into the depth of it. And through that, we can explore new paradigms. This is the possibility I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about the other possibilities. Glorifying the past. I may still show you a few things just to say that there is a possibility here. Please come in. Only to that extent, I'll have to do that. I have to show some applications, some interesting dimensions. Otherwise, why do we need this? Because that is the position that I have personally taken. I think it is important for us to know it firsthand, maybe explore some interesting ideas may come out of it, which can be of use. I think that is how we should take this IKS discussion forward. A small beginning can be a good course in which we introduce some niceties which are there, but nudge our students, look at this direction. Maybe you will find something interesting. And that's worth all the effort that we are putting. Because that's how every knowledge is done in any case. So why should we do it any different? Now I will go to the next point. So the next point is there any value in ancient wisdom? That is what it is. So question that is there any value in ancient Indian wisdom? Now there are three things I want to tell you. First of all, we must understand all issues related to business, government, and society are as old as rocks and rivers. Are you telling the problems are only today? Problems existed forever. Today we are solving it in a particular way. 500 years back, people must have solved it in a particular way. Another 1,000 years back, somebody must have solved it in another way, and so on. So therefore, I think every society has its own wisdom. Every society has solved problems. Therefore, there is certainly a merit in looking at it. Sometimes, we may otherwise be simply reinventing the wheel. If you had seen it, perhaps you would have, because everything comes on a circle now. What we are doing all comes after a while back to us. So therefore, the second thing that people, I'm tired of actually hearing this. There are people who say, we are very intelligent. We have found computers. We have found this. We have found that. We are the most intelligent lot now, solving all real problems and so on. This is as good as saying that our ancestors had no brains and they had nothing to think. And they are such useless fellows that they cannot think as vividly as we can think. Now, if you buy that argument, then you become an idiot exactly 100 years from now. You have to be ready for it. Because the same argument will keep going. Today, you may say you are great. Our ancestors were no good, we were great. If that is the rule by which we have to accept things, you and I will become idiots exactly in 100 years from now. And I am not going to accept that. I think God has given cauliflower in my head, in your head and everybody's head. Our ancestors also had cauliflower in their head called brain. They used it. So why should we, usurp everything to the last 400 years of what West found and say whatever is the last word to be told is available in the Western knowledge and all other things are not required? I think that's not a very great argument. So therefore, I am not going to agree to that also. The third thing is, as a professor of management, I keep saying this, we teach what is called path dependence. It's a very important concept in strategy. When we teach how companies succeed, how companies make more money and be very successful in the market and all that. When we teach that, we teach what is called path dependence. What it means in simple terms is the path that I am going to take from here, where I am now. The path that I am going to take forward is a function of the path that I already walked. If I don't know the path in which I have come this far, the path that I am going to take forward will be actually severely challenged. This is a very important concept in strategy. We call it as core competence. There are some technical words and we teach those theories and those kinds of things and so on. Therefore, we must know the path that we walked. No society can afford to say that cut off. I don't want to know anything. Leave it. All those, let it remain. Let me now start afresh. There are some Westerners who have given us some ideas in the last 400 years. That is good enough for me. So let me, go with it and then move on and so on. I think that's not going to work. And that's a very, too simple an argument with which you can actually brush aside Indian knowledge system. Suppose if none of these arguments even cut ice, none of these arguments you are able to agree, let me try another set of arguments. I want to tell you, Indian knowledge system is not merely about some ancestral knowledge. It's actually about protecting received wisdom. And it has economic security. I will talk about it very seriously. This is not a very casual thing. This is not a saffron agenda, as some political parties are saying. It is not that. It is something bigger than that. So let me explain what it is. See, this century, 21st century, 20th century is a century in which the power was in military. Those who had, that's why US and USSR were having this Cold War. They accumulated a lot of military power and they established their supremacy with the amount of nuclear arms that they have had and size of the army, etc., etc. All those, while they may be continuing, they may be there. That's not what is going to be the rules of the game for 21st century. 21st century is a knowledge society. In a knowledge society, the power is in knowledge. The power is not in the guns and pistols and your tanks and fighter jet planes and so on. Power is in knowledge. Now you may be wondering, why am I saying this? This is because we have actually formalized all these very well. I don't know how many of you are aware. There is something called World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, which grants patents, technological patents, innovations are all recognized and so on. Now this patent, you know, you have what is called USPTO, United States Patent Trade Office, something office, and trademark office, USPTO. They issue patents. Now, what is a patent? Let us leave the technical discussions. Let us not get into too much of technical discussion and so on. What is a patent? The idea is very simple. You come and tell that, please give me a patent. I have found a method of doing it, doing something new. Suppose I come and say, I knew it, you brought it today. I knew it yesterday. If I am able to prove that I know it yesterday, although you came and said I found it today, the patent will be given only to me because I knew it earlier than you. This is the simplest possible explanation for patent regime. Now, a country with 5,000 plus years of scriptural base, with the repository of knowledge which is dated back to 5,000 plus years, if you just drop that knowledge, we will miserably fail in the patent war. Absolutely, we will become poor once again. So I will give you two examples. We are already tasting it. I will give you one bad example and one good example so that you understand where from I am coming. An US company was awarded a patent for neem as a pesticide. You go to any nook and corner of this country, people know that neem is used as a pesticide. This is part of our DNA of our knowledge in India. But unfortunately, you cannot go to a US patent office and simply say, sir, we all know it. Nobody is going to listen to you if you say like that. You have to show evidence. You have to show scriptural support. You have to show how and date it. You should be able to say in 400 BC or 600 CE, AD, we found this. These are the references. These are the scriptures in which it has been written. If we don't say it, nobody is going to take us seriously. And if we have to say it, first of all, we should know what is contained in our repository. If we don't even know what is in our repository, what are we going to say? We can't say anything. We can just keep quiet. So we miserably lost this patent to a US company. This is the bad part of it. I'll show you one other story. CSIR, which is a Center for Scientific and Industrial Research established in this country, there were again two Indians from a US university. They asked for a patent for powdered turmeric for wound healing, which again, every one of us, your grandmother will tell. She doesn't have to go to any college. She doesn't have to know how to read and write, but she will tell you that turmeric is used for wound healing. It took more than 10 years, not one or two. Dr. Mashelkar was the Director General of CSIR at that point in time. It took 10 years of serious fighting. Why 10 years? Because we have to first find out where is this written in our scriptures. I mean, it has become so commonplace use for us, but patent office is not going to listen like that. They'll tell us, please show me. I'm not going to take your word of mouth. So they actually took a lot of time to search and dig and read and etc. etc. They did. Finally, they won the patent war. Is this the way this country has to suffer? For things which we know, are we going to meekly surrender? If we want to meekly surrender, then we can forget IKS. But if we want to say 21st century belongs to India, a knowledge society is where the future holds for us, then this country has a 5,000 years of repository. Why are we not reading it? Why are we using all kinds of arguments? Sanskrit is religious. Sanskrit is religious is a very small portion. I don't know how many of you know. Sanskrit is religious is only a very small portion. There's a vast majority. See, today, I'll give you an example, then you'll understand. I'll use today's terms. Shankaracharya is actually a Malayali in today's, we have no linguistic states. I have to use a word like this. Shankaracharya is a Malayali. Ramanujacharya is a Tamilian. Okay. Madhvacharya is a Kannadiga. While they may be good in their own respective languages, the official language was Sanskrit. All intellectual discussions were done with Sanskrit until 1800 CE. Just as we use English today. What is the problem today? The intellectual language today is English. So if you go to judiciary, if you go to any court in this country, if you don't know English, you don't get justice, or you don't know what is being told to you, because we have put English. So therefore, hiding behind Sanskrit as a religious is a foolish thing, because it was the language of the intellectuals. It was the official language for research and development, etc., etc., etc. Therefore, unless we read all these, we will miserably fail in patent war. And India will once again become a poor nation. We have to collectively make a decision, do we want to do it or not? If we say we don't want to be poor, we want to regain our pride, then we need Indian knowledge system. This is another way to understand why we need Indian knowledge system. So there are many more I can argue. For want of time, I'm just giving a few ideas. Point I'm trying to make is, we don't have to read Indian knowledge system to be too good to this country or too respectful to our elders, or all that. We don't have to do, or I belong to a certain political party. All that is not required. Our received wisdom and economic security and national pride is buried in it. Please understand that. Unless we reopen it, we will be colonized forever. That is why we need Indian knowledge system. Okay, so I think let us not wait till 4 o'clock. This is a logical time for us to take a break, because so far we have only spoken, from outside in terms of why do you need Indian knowledge system, what are some of the snippets. I have only done a trailer of it. Now what we'll do is we'll take a 15-minute break. Shika, time is 3:50 now. Can we reassemble at 4:10? 20 minutes we'll take a break.
Sure, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah, 4:10 we will reassemble. From here, I will go on, formally introduce, show the scriptures, what kind of knowledge we have and all that. That we will do for the next 1.5 hours. Yeah?
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So we join at 4:10?
Yes, you can also, broadcast, put a chat saying we reassemble at 4:10.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We will now have a break and we'll all reassemble at sharp 4:10. Thank you. Also, please mark your attendance through the link that's there in the chat box. Once the next session starts, this attendance link will be stopped. So please ensure that you have marked the attendance for this session through this link. Thank you.